Hafa. My name is Leddy. I'm the Executive Director for the Action PAC. This is a special edition of the We Want to Know Action PAC show. I'm here at the Lou and Josh headquarters, and I have the privilege of interviewing Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. And with that said, please enjoy this interview. I'm your host, Leddy, and I have the honorable guest and the privilege of interviewing Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. Hafa, and thank you for your time.
Hafa day, Phil.
Buenas.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you so much as well for hosting this at your headquarters. This is quite a step up from my typical Zoom conversations, but I do believe it's rightly appropriate as you are the current gubernatorial team. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Well, welcome to our headquarters.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for our new listeners and viewers and the voters, we always like to introduce who Action PAC is and what Action PAC is about. So Action PAC was formed out of a need to play an active role in government, beginning at the grassroots level. Action PAC comprises members from a cross-section of Guam society, representing all walks of life, and united in our belief that we can affect change through action. So we welcome you, the viewer, to get to know us better, as we hope to help you, the voter, get to know our candidates better. So our conversations with the candidates are very quick, easy, and truthfully, it's just that dialogue that we feel the community wants to have when we're talking with our future lawmakers. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with, if you guys can introduce, what are your 3 platform pillars?
Well, for us, of course, financial stability of the government is one. Economy is another one, and that can be rolled into one. Of course, safety and crime is another. And then, of course, social services like health, education, and our infrastructure. So we basically have a vision that we want Guam to be a fair, compassionate, safe, and prosperous community. And those are our 3 major platforms.
Excellent. I do believe all of those topics are on the top of our citizens' minds as far as the safety, having that life where we're able to not always walk around in fear and whatnot. So the fact that you guys are also highlighting that within your platform, I know that's greatly appreciated from us citizens.
Yeah, and I would say that the way we measure it is we're measuring whether or not we're able to improve the quality of life for the people. So when we're taking a look at these issues, metrics that we're looking at, expanding the number of law enforcement officers on the streets, attracting more medical professionals, trying to support student achievement, and really making real investments in healthcare and access to healthcare. Those are all things in addition to tracking employment. This is a big thing. And one of the biggest things that we're very happy about is that we've been able to shrink unemployment from 19.1% at the height of the pandemic to now 4.8%. So it is something that we take very seriously, but also knowing that small business is what is the engine of the economy. And I think both of us come from that background, and we have both been in government and in the private sector, and I think that's the advantage that we have.
And also, Phil wanted to say that before we could even move on with our platform, we needed to stabilize our financial and our government's finances. And so what we did in the first 3 years is we have eliminated an inherited deficit of $83 million in a pandemic where the main engine of our economy, which was tourism, was virtually none. And I think that's a great, amazing record performance for us in terms of making sure that we have stabilized our finances. And as a result of stabilizing our finances, we have been closely monitoring our cash flow. And of course, with that stabilization, cash flow begins to be better. And as a result of that, we were able to then push out tax returns. And now we're averaging over the last, I think, 11 days, we're seeing tax returns being returned within 2 weeks of filing. Really, past administrations and under the Camacho administration, it took years to return taxes to our people. More so, and even so with that delay, it was like, who do you know? They gave the tax refunds first. what are the issues? They gave the tax refunds first. In our administration, because we were able to push out tax returns because we were financially stable, we didn't have to do that. It was a first come, first serve, and it was a fair, equitable distribution of the returns of our people. So I think that's a great achievement for our administration. We were fiscally disciplined, we looked at our expenses, and then we really focused on resources, and we gave resources to those agencies that would make this happen. Of course, DRT is one of them.
Yeah, and let me just add that one of the key components of the fiscal stabilization is making sure that everybody was paying their fair share of taxes. And for years, we've been hearing complaints, including from members of the business community, that wanted to make sure that, that everybody was paying their fair share. And so collections have been up, and we have a very good system at Rev Tax that continues to improve, trying to incorporate technology and making sure that we focus on making sure we collect every tax that is supposed to be in the hands of the people of Guam.
Excellent. And I will say it's very important to note that no other sitting team has ever had to face the atrocity of a pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the other thing is, no other sitting team has been able to pay tax refunds without borrowing any money from the bond market.
Right.
Correct. At record time, as you mentioned.
That's right.
Excellent. Great achievement. Our next question is what is one main focus item, or two, since I have both of you present, that you feel you can realistically accomplish in the next term?
One focused item?
Correct.
Of course, for me, my vision, of course, is to have a medical complex center up in Eagles Field. And I really feel we can realistically achieve that. We are on the way now to get the lease all negotiated, and we have identified funding sources. So our vision is to build a medical complex center that will service the people of Guam. Phil, our people have to go off island for treatment. And I think we need to keep that here on our island. As a nurse, I know that healing becomes a lot faster and much more smoother if you are with your loved ones and if you are in your familial surroundings. And so for us to achieve that, we need to build a new hospital. Our current hospital only has like 5 years of life left. And so we have to be very ambitious and aggressive to doing that. And I feel we can do that. I feel in the next year, first quarter, we could probably do a groundbreaking for the public health laboratory. And concurrently with that, we can do the hospital. So it's very realistic for us to do that. Of course, the other one, and Josh is very instrumental in this, is the Simon Sanchez building. That is, of course, under a great campaign with the Department of Education, and he can speak more about that. But healthcare in terms of facilities, that's one. Overall, I think our infrastructure will start to be improved. As you can see now, our roads are being improved. We are going to really make sure that we also put the sewage system and the water distribution system that is safe for our people. That's another realistic item that I think we're going to be able to achieve. There are many that we have already started in this first term,
right.
And that's why we are asking again our people to give us their confidence and their trust so we can get reelected and move on forward with these very, I think, remarkable agenda and initiatives to lift the quality of life of our people.
I just wanted to add that at the end of the next 4 years, after we get reelected, I believe that we're going to be expanding the number of people that are employed on Guam. And that's because there is a remarkable investment being made by the U.S. military in necessary defense infrastructure to protect Guam, but also to ensure peace and stability in the region. This is going to be more military jobs, more civilian jobs working in military bases, more private sector jobs supporting contracts. But then also, we're going to be seeing an expansion of tourism. And I think all of this bodes well for to try and push back on a long-standing problem that Guam has had with a lot of its talent leaving the island. And I think that the opportunities that are coming in ship repair, in direct military service, in technology and additive manufacturing, these are all new frontiers. But on top of that, I see a large number of small businesses being created by young entrepreneurs. And I think maybe in the next few questions, we'll be able to share with you some of the things that I think are going to be supporting that.
Yeah, I'm real excited about what Josh mentioned about small businesses. You know, we are seeing, we're tracking from the Department of Revenue and Tax increase in business licenses, and we're averaging about 300 to 250 a month. And so that's a good sign. Most of them, of course, are new businesses by very young and very energetic entrepreneurs, which gives me a lot of great hope for our future, because these are the people that are going to be sustained coming on further. And I think that falls right into our economy and the concerns about the economy. If we stand up, support small businesses, and also along with them, good public services to support the small businesses, I think our future is going to be very bright in this next few years.
That's excellent. I love what you guys shared. The Simon Sanchez issue is personal to me because I attended Simon Sanchez for 2 years before relocating to the mainland.
Wow.
And then
even then it should have been repaired, huh?
Even then it should have been repaired.
Yeah.
And then returning back to Guam, like you said, trying to foster and homegrown talent, but not just to teach them, to educate them here, but to keep them here.
Yes.
Because it is important for the future of our economy, the stability of our economy, to have that active participation by the young entrepreneurs. I too am active with the Guam Contractors Association.
Oh, nice.
And there is going to be a ton already of money pumped in
Yes.
on
All
an
the way
annual
until
basis.
2030.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, and of course, one of the biggest challenges, right, is workforce development. And how we're looking at it is we want to bring in H-2B workers as a temporary means till we get more of our own talented individuals into the workforce. And so we've been really having a good partnership with GCC and private sector to do that. And so we have a very aggressive boot camp with GCC, and also an apprenticeship program with private sectors. And we're starting to see people shift more into the areas like Josh said, ship repair, even hotel and restaurants, of course, is a very important, significant industry for our island, but even into healthcare. You know, with certified nurse anesthetists, we just recently graduated, I think about over 100 of community health workers. This is a grant that we gave to one of the, I think it's the Mariana Straits
Training Institute.
And they took that grant and pushed it out to the community, and they were fortunate enough to be able to give free training for people to train in community health workers, because that was one of our during the pandemic, that was one of the areas that was lacking. You know, community health workers that could be working at the community health centers, public health community centers, or even going out into the community, identifying those health disparity issues, working out in the community, getting people educated, aware, you know, of preventive kinds of measures, and also helping out in our social issues like, you know, drugs, addiction, and so forth. So I'm very excited with what we're doing to improve our workforce development and have a talented group of educated workforce. And that really also helps in beneficial for the families, because now they are going into better jobs, into career path jobs, into very certain and sustainable jobs. So again, I get very excited when I see what's happening down in the future for our economy, for our people, lifting up their livelihood and also providing them a livable wage and an income that they can sustain their families and sustain their livelihood. So just really exciting, I feel.
I can hear it. I can hear
Yeah.
that when you guys speak about it, that you are very passionate about it. So I do appreciate you sharing those ideas and what you are going to bring to the table in the next term, should you guys contain the seats. Now, the last question before we jump into the initiatives, we always like to state that we are pro-business, the Action PAC. We're comprised of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, Guam Contractors Association, Chinese and Korean Chambers, Guam Women's Chamber,
Yeah.
as well as the Hotel Restaurant Association, and rounding it off would be the
Right.
Guam Association of Realtors.
Right.
So we have great minds at the table, and a lot of people misconstrue when someone says they're pro-business that they're anti-government. We believe in a great collaborative
Yes.
effort between the public and the private sector, and that's why we appreciate the conversations that we're sharing with the candidates, and today, privilege of speaking with you two. So before we get into our initiatives, our closing question would be, how do you plan, and you did share some already, to help the local business community, big and small, as we continue to progress post-economic recovery period?
Right. So, being a businesswoman, as the president of the Bank of Guam, I certainly is very sensitive to and very cognitive and very accepting and for small businesses. I was also one of the founding members of the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce, so that was because we wanted women to get the support and the mentorship and the resources so that they can be successful. So these are the kinds of things I think that support small businesses. Associations like the Chamber of Commerce, like the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce, the Hotel Restaurant Association. And so as a government, we work very closely, especially with the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association and the Guam Contractors Association. I was also a director for the Guam Chamber of Commerce Association. So, being a leader in government and having that experience as a small business, in business, I think already sets the road and the entry and the collaborativeness for private and government. I'll tell you, businesses cannot function without government, and government cannot function without businesses. It has to work together. One of the things that we were very, very sensitive to, of course, during the pandemic, was the closure of our businesses. And we pumped in over $120 million to our businesses in LEAP programs, in rental assistance, in small business grants, in loans and all that. So this was a great show of how government sees the importance of businesses. Government sees the importance of businesses keeping their employees employed, because that was one of our main vision in this whole pandemic, is how do we keep employees employed? So we stood up a public unemployment program. In 2 months, we developed a program that is a complicated program. In most states, took years to do, and we pumped in over $900 million to help our people, to help our employees, to help those that were furloughed, those whose hours were decreased. And as a result of that, we were able to continue on and stand up our economy and help the businesses. So those are some of our things. One of the things, I know Josh will probably talk more about it, is how do we effectively streamline processes so we can support small businesses in their permits, in their business license. And Josh has been a very big influence in making that business business licenses and permits go a lot smoother. So
Yeah.
we can work as regulators and as government public service to help lift up and stand up our small businesses?
Yeah, so a couple things. Number one, we've been for the last 2 years working on on addressing some long-standing deficiencies in the business licensing and building permit process. And I'm very excited that right now we're at the end part of a selection, and we're just waiting for a selection to be made for a contractor for the online building permit system that is going to be available soon to all of the applicants. This will allow concurrent review of permit applications amongst all of the regulatory agencies. It would allow the applicant to know, even within each agency, the status of their review. It will be 1 point for submission, so there's no lost documents. Some of the things that are mysterious sometimes, we intend to shine some transparency on it so that everybody knows, that the contractors, and the developers all are on the same page. That's a big thing that's going to change the way we do business on Guam. The second thing we're doing is we are working with Public Works and GITA to identify areas that we can rely on local businesses and their licenses to self-certify certain aspects of the process. So we're looking to establish some consensus on the types of construction projects and development projects in which we will be able to utilize local engineers to certify that they're up to code, and letting Gov Guam and the resources it has be able to use to target their regulatory functions. We'll also be identifying duplicate or conflicting jurisdiction over areas. And all of this is going to also work in line with having, we'll be activating a process that will allow applicants to immediately appeal the decisions of regulators on permits. And the whole point of this is to make sure that there's consistent application of the law. Sometimes we hear that depending on who's at the service window, they'll give the answer, and sometimes it's not the same for everybody, which is not fair. That's something that we're doing to really help streamline, but also to help the process along. But the other thing I'd say that we're doing right now is that the governor has tapped on a lot of the members of the organizations that are part of Action PAC to diversify the economy. And over the last, I think it's been maybe about 1.5 to 2 years,
2 years,
they've
right.
been working and they've identified reasonable and practical business lines that can come in for diversification. So I know the governor is very excited about additive manufacturing. Another line, and I've met with some of the companies, pharmaceuticals. Made in USA on Guam, this is an advantage of our status, allows pharmaceutical companies and is attractive for pharmaceutical companies to come here to make these medications and to export them into new markets. So new markets in Asia, everybody desires pharmaceuticals and medicines that are made in the USA. And that's something that is one of the things that is already being worked on as a result of the governor's effort.
Right. And I just wanted to say, I brought back the question about what's a one realistic achievement. I think bringing in additive management as an industry is a very, very real.
Manufacturing.
Additive manufacturing is a realistic outcome. When I was back there, I met with the company, and actually this company has been working closely with the military, and one of their big goal is to come to Guam, establish a 3D manufacturing industry, hire and train our people for good paying jobs, and then provide also the military and our civilians the supplies that they need to repair the ships. the supplies that they need to maybe build commercial buildings, so that they recognize that the supply chain in Guam is very, very challenging, and that we're so far away that there's a cost on inventory, there's a cost of transportation costs, there's a cost of shipping and all that. Whereas if we brought this additive manufacturing industry, that they can create and produce those supplies right here locally with our own talent and our own people. So that one, I think, is going to be realized soon. They're going to come here for a feasibility study, and but they're already very excited and very poised to come to Guam.
And what we do is we utilize some of the tools that we're in control of to try and encourage or expand that business opportunity, right? So when we talk about taxes and qualifying certificates and making decisions about where we think the yield and return is going to be, I think is one important fact. And then, of course, we have a very good business environment. Most small businesses pay 3% of GRT or BPT based on their size. And having stabilized the finances and now working so hard to expand and diversify the amount of money that is coming in, we will soon find ourselves in a place where we could really examine and make decisions about what the tax policy should be for Guam that's sustainable. And I think that's another big thing that is going to help the business environment here in Guam.
Absolutely, and on behalf of the Action PAC, we were definitely involved in those conversations for the reduction of BPT. So we want to thank you as our leaders here on island for taking it into consideration, opening up that collaborative dialogue, and then seeing it through for 85%?
About 90%.
About 90%
Yes.
of businesses.
That's right.
Excellent. So we definitely want to give you thanks for that on behalf of the business community. And so now we're going to jump into the Action PAC initiatives. These are our current initiatives. There's 5 of them. I'll read them one at a time, and you can agree, you can disagree, or you can elaborate. And again, we're all about that dialogue and having that back. Then that's where we will, I think, grow as an island, right? We continue to have that, see your point of view, you see a different point of view, and then we can see what's the best point of view for the island moving forward. Alrighty, so our first, you kind of just touched on it, LT, is the rollback of the BPT from 5 to 4 for all businesses.
So, of course, that's an ongoing discussion in the community, especially in the Guam Chamber of Commerce community. And what we need to look at, Phil, is what does that mean in consequences of revenues for our island, right? So we know that we are starting to see increased construction, increased federal contracts, and these people pay 5% GRT. And so if we are going to roll back from 5 to 4, we stand to lose close to between 60 to over $100 million a year in revenues from those contracts, from those federal projects. So that needs to be discussed. It needs to say, okay, if we decide that, how are we going to replace that revenue source?
I think, Gov, if I can just add on that point, when you talk about the military presence and military operations, the pulse of the community is they always want to see what is the contribution going to be by the United States into Guam, right? And although we have been working very hard and have received a whole bunch of support for infrastructure projects that I think are going to eventually help the pocketbook, but we need to be able to answer to the public if the U.S. military is paying the 5% to the contractors as a pass-through, and the contractors turn around and pay the 5%, are we going to be pushing back free money, so to speak, from the directly from the U.S. government at a time when the people of Guam are demanding for compensation from the military, right? This is one of those complicated things. And what I was talking about earlier, I think after stabilizing the finances and as we are stabilizing government and public services, this conversation that we're talking about is very important because There have been discussions that we've had, and we are already analyzing, the impact of 5 to 4% for things like food, right, that are going to be directly helping the consumers. There is some discussion about medicine, but we also know, and we're looking for the relief on the cost of drugs based on the recent federal law that's been passed that goes and allows for more serious negotiations
with Medicare.
With Medicare and pharmaceutical companies to bring the cost of medicine down. So I think that we're getting close to that place where we're able to make decisions, right? And make sure that we don't shortchange the public services that everybody has been complaining, right? I mean, better education, better healthcare, those are key components, better security for attracting and keeping a workforce also. But I would say we're open-minded, and I think the good thing is that we can all be part of this dialogue. And the better thing too is we're in a position now to really quantify what the impact of this military buildup is and what the direct contribution to the people of Guam is based on even just this BPT.
Right.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for that, for your elaborating of that answer. Our second initiative is to advocate for government efficiency to protect and preserve its resources.
So we're already doing a lot of that. If you look at Department of Revenue and Tax, when we first came in, it was very manual processing. Right now, we're at a point where we are now, we've automated vehicular registration. We've automated driver's license. We've automated single tax filings. And so there are a lot of other things that we're looking forward. Our Department of Administration is looking at a new FMIS system that would be much more efficient and effective so that, payments and vendors can be paid in a more timely and efficient way. Of course, DPW with Josh and the Department of Public Works and the task force automating business license. So there's more.
Right, and the permits.
And the permits. So there's more efficiency there.
Yeah.
The hospital right now is going to launch electronic health records information system, which is going to make their treatment of the patients so much faster. Communication to the doctors so much better.
And less costly.
And less costly. Public Health is looking at automating some of their processes also. So automation
we're in favor
of
that for sure.
We're very in favor of that. Plus, with the infrastructure bill that just was passed, there's going to be a lot of money being pushed out on broadband, cybersecurity, internet. We are working very closely with carriers so that our goal is to have broadband in every corner of our island. Our goal is to be able to give our people and those that are underserved the resources and the means to be able to access internet and so forth. So we recognize very much the importance of automation. So we're very, we are very, of course, attentive to that. That's a priority. And so it also, I think we can shift some of the employees also to other areas of skills that may fall into what their interests are. So automating doesn't necessarily mean employees not having jobs. I know that's one of the fear, but automating is just shifting skills and shifting talents and shifting interests. And so we're very much for that, absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw that effectiveness being president of the Bank of Guam. Financial automation is very key, very key. And of course, our big concern is cybersecurity, threats to cybersecurity. So we are actually, we do have an island-wide cybersecurity plan. We need to reinforce it, we need to enhance it. But that's one of the areas that we're also looking. If you're going to automate, you make sure that you protect the data, the information, the processes. There's hackers all over. You hear Russia hacking in, you hear other countries hacking in. And so that's very key, I think, to the success of effectiveness of processes. We also believe in continuous quality improvement, where you go down to the level of the workers and work with the processes that they work with, and have the workers be the ones to really improve their processes because they're the experts, and you just guide them along and supervise them. But they're the ones that have the great ideas
They do.
in making government more effective and efficient.
I think there's going to be a role also to make things happen faster. Some of the frustrating things that the governor and I talk about is the length of time it takes for us to bring on private sector to help us develop or execute solutions. So when we're talking about technology, I think that there's a lot of discussions with us, and we're interested and very open to making it easier and faster to go and acquire and execute. But it takes a lot of convincing, I think, with the legislature. We're not satisfied with the rate of the acquisition of these things with technology. And the future we see is, we want to see, even as basic as school buses, we have set aside funds to purchase the technology so that parents would have an app to track the school bus that their child will be on, and in real time. These are little things that I think are big issues that we can resolve with technology. And I'm just excited. We're both very much attracted to a lot of the smart town, smart city solutions that we see throughout the world. But even in some of the small islands are utilizing this to help distribute their resources.
Yes, absolutely. I just also wanted to add that, as probably a business person, and of course the chamber and the women's chamber and all the businesses know that when you put in change, it is sometimes very difficult to make that change. So one of the challenges is, how do we shift the employees' mindset, and how do we shift the employees' culture to be able to accept that change, right? This is how we normally do it. It's difficult for us now to make that change, but like I said, if you involve the employees in that change, they'll have better buy-in because they'll see that their work will become easy.
They help shape the change.
So the other thing about automation, I just wanted to say that I just came back from the Pacific Islands Summit, the very first historical summit that President Biden gathered all the Pacific Island nations leaders, North Pacific and South Pacific. And of course, they addressed climate change, they addressed economy, workforce, but one of the biggest things that they were actually asking for is digitalization, because they want to be connected to all of the islands in the region, and they saw the benefits of having digitalization in their islands. Communication is very key, right? You're an isolated island, you need to make sure you communicate, and so they really were pushing for connectivity. So just this aside in what's coming down the pipes in the whole, Pacific region.
Exciting years ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. I love to hear it. Our number 3 initiative is, you guys also touched on this as well, improve the transparency at all levels of the government of Guam and promote open communication and collaboration efforts between the public and private sectors.
Right, there are already laws put in place for that. Meetings have to be recorded
Streamed online.
and streamed online, and we're certainly adhering to that. We thoroughly believe in transparency. That's how you bring people along with you. We thoroughly believe in accountability, transparency, record keeping, reports, because we are a public entity, we are a government, and we're using people's monies. And certainly I understand and accept very much the fact that we need to be open and transparent and accountable, and we are that. We have sent reports that are required. We've met not just for local, but also federal. These federal dollars that are coming into our island, they require a lot of reporting, a lot of transparency. And so with our FMIS system and automation, we can have that transparency at your fingertip. So our administration is all about that, and we
Right.
have been complying and adhering to that. You just go on our website and you can see minutes of our meetings and so forth. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now that leads us to our number four initiative. Excuse me. It is to strengthen relations with the U.S. military to improve safety and security in our region while maximizing the economic opportunities afforded to Guam.
Absolutely. We're laughing because
Yeah.
because Josh and I spoke a lot about
Yeah.
this when
Restoring
we were
credibility
campaigning.
was a big thing.
Restoring credibility with our military partners, the trust and the relationship. And I know, and Josh knows very well, that we have to work with our military. And so we're not fighting against the military. The military, no, we accept the military buildup. We think the military buildup is going to be good for our economy. We think it's going to be good for security in this part of the world. But we also said to the military, we are very accepting of you, but you need to respect our environment. You need to respect our culture. You need to respect our land. You need to respect our people. And so I think so far that we have in this last 3.5 years, they are doing that. I know some people and military's reputation has been terrible, before, not just in Guam, but other places where they just come in, take over, and no buts about it, right? But I think they realize that that's not how to win a community. And so they've been very, very communicative with us. We work very well. I have a regular weekly phone call with Admiral Nicholson whenever I have to speak to him. He's always accessible, available. Admiral Aquilino is always very accessible. He's the head of Indo-PACOM over here, and also the Secretary of the Navy. So we've developed that relationship, and we have been very showing of that, especially during the pandemic when we encountered the massive positive cases in the USS Theodore Roosevelt, and they had to come here.
Right.
They had to evacuate all 4,000 sailors, men and women, and they were at a challenge of where are we going to put these people. And so they asked us if it would be possible to put them in the community, in our hotels, and we worked closely with the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, and we did, as long as we had our protocols to protect the sailors from getting more exposed through the community and to protect our community from getting exposed to the sailors. It worked out really, really well. They were here for like 2 to 3 months, and they were able also to contribute to the economy because they weren't at the hotels for free. They were paying regular rates at the hotels for 3 months, and you'll know that. I'm sure you know that from the chamber and so forth. So we've developed, and as a result of that, they have been very thankful and very appreciative for the government and the community of Guam. And I think that opened a lot of opportunities to work with them. And not only that, we work very closely with our federal partners also in all areas: education, healthcare, safety, out of Region 9, and also work very well with the White House and our
No matter who's in the
Congress
White
part-
House.
Yeah. Trump was in the White House. When I first became governor, I remember we were at a meeting in his office, and we had to go around and tell them what our 3 biggest concerns are. I told him Medicaid, H-2B, and EITC. And we got EITC 100%. I don't know if you know about Earned Income Tax Credit. That's a federal unfunded mandate where the U.S. territories had to pay it without any federal funding. All the states have to pay it by federal funding, right? So we got 100% EITC. That's a great revenue source for us. We don't have to use our general fund monies for it. So these are just some of the things that we have been working with and being very collaborative with.
I just wanted to add that, I made a point that you have to be willing to work with all the federal partners, right? And even though the governor and I are obviously in a different political party than former President Trump, and we have different opinions on some of the key social issues, but we always were able to set that aside, afford that office the respect, and make sure we were able to work. And we worked really well with members of his administration. And this is, I think, what is a big contrast between our team and the team that we're competing with. The other team I can't say that President Biden was duly elected by the people. How are you going to engage a White House when already you're going to be saying those kinds of things? It's one thing to disagree on certain matters, and we can, but the legitimacy of that presidency, that's not something that you toy around with, because it has consequences. People need to be able to take you seriously. And right now, these are very serious times. The more important point I wanted to make is we're living in a region, yet again, where there's a big geopolitical competition. It's not a competition that we've invited, nor do we have any influence. It's just the reality. And I think that the military, whose mission is to deter any conflicts, has to rely on Guam as it has before in very pivotal times in the course of the history of these last decades and decades, right? And this is where the governor and I talk a lot about, the burden of peace and security also rests on all of our shoulders, all of the people of Guam. And as you pointed out in the question, you have to be able to get every single advantage for the people when we're having to make these sacrifices ourselves, right? And so there are a lot of folks on the island that have legitimate concerns about the environment, about cultural resources, about natural resources. And we're fortunate that we have a government based on rule and order that allows legitimate complaints and also the opinions of our public to go in and be heard and to be factored into decisions. So the pending decision on the burn pit up north, right, is something that everybody is interested in. The governor and I have articulated early on our concerns about the burn pit. And so, of course, now we rely on the military to show us what other alternatives are possible, right? And I think the governor, she's been always very transparent and open and asking for solutions, because she also articulates some of these concerns. So I think it's a balance, but the best approach and the most successful way we've been able to deal with is very frankly and with respect, but also understanding and supporting that the military's mission here is very critical for the peace and security of our people. And that is our number one responsibility. When we assume our office and took our oaths, we do everything we can to make sure people on Guam are protected. And that includes making sure that the military is protecting us forever. Not like 81 years ago where, our people were left and didn't know what was happening. Times are different, and that requires this partnership.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And this is where I, with no shame, plug in my grandmother, who, thank you so much for giving her a certificate, I do believe, when she retired, Joyce Martret.
Oh, yes.
She was instrumental up there at the 36th Wing.
Actually, she ran the Anderson Air Force Base.
Yeah, they call her the First Lady of Anderson, And I was fortunate enough to be her date to this previous Air Force Ball last month. But yes, she gives her regards.
Oh, we love Joyce.
Yes. Thank you so much. So that brings us down to our last initiative. And this one, I do believe it's up for personal interpretation because candidates that we've interviewed previously, it's typically a coin flip, and it really depends on how they choose to define it. So we do ask, where do you stand in support or not of a possible part-time legislature?
So I am not supportive of a part-time legislature. I have always made that very clear since I was a senator. And the reason is this, Phil. In other states, there are several layers of policymakers. You know, you have the municipal, you have, you know, various cities, then states. Here in Guam, we only have one level of policy making. And we have a lot of challenges, and we have a lot of policies that we can revise and move forward. Appropriations is a big issue. Lots of capital are going to be infused, and so we need a full-time legislature. I even think some people are discussing about making it from 15 to 21 because the 15 has a high risk of special interest legislation. But I am not supportive of a part-time legislature. I think we need to support our lawmakers. I think they need to be there full-time because, like I said, there are many challenges and issues ahead of us that would require good policy making, and I think having a part-time is not going to do the job justice.
Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you for your time and your candor, and we really strongly feel the Action PAC that the more discussions that we are able to utilize our platform for candidates seeking public office is the better chance for our voters out there
Sure.
to be informed and to come to a conscious decision. So I do appreciate your time, and I know that the voters and the viewers appreciate getting to know more in depth of what you, the Leon Guerrero and Tenorio team brings to the table.
Yes.
I do want to state for those listening that Action PAC is providing a voting van free of charge. So we do want everyone to come out to vote. We think that it is our civic duty and responsibility, but it is a blessing to be able to have a voice at the polls.
Amen.
So we do encourage everyone. Early voting is active at the West End up until
Yes.
the 3rd.
Yeah.
And then if you're not able to make it to the early voting, we do hope to see everyone at the polls on November 8th.
I also want to add that with early voting, you can register right there.
Correct. And vote. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Until a certain date, though.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So I do want to give you guys a chance for a closing statement to those viewing and watching when we release the episode. So this is your time.
I'll start off and then Josh, if you
Sure.
want. But I just wanted to say thank you, of course, for the Action PAC and for this opportunity to address the audience. I really believe that the Lou and Josh team is the right team, is the competent team, is the leaders, are the leaders that have proven ourselves in our performance and our record. We are the leaders who are very passionate and compassionate to our people. We are the leaders that do hear our people and work through the struggles of our people. We have a lot of challenges ahead. I feel the team of Lou and Josh is the right team to meet those challenges in every areas, in social, in economic, in governance, and so forth, finances. So we have proven ourselves, and we want to continue to prove ourselves, and we want to continue to work for the people of Guam, to lift up their quality of life, because they deserve no less than an elevated, high-quality way of living and supporting their families and their children. So please, on your early voting and on November 8th, vote for Lou and Josh.
Thanks. I just wanted to add and thank first the people of Guam for giving us this opportunity to serve you. It really has been the honor of a lifetime. And I'm really excited about all the progress that we were able to make, even in the face of the most dangerous situation that affected our island since World War II. I'm really confident in the future of our island. I'm really confident in the ability that our team, Lou and Josh, have in providing our people with every opportunity to improve their quality of their lives. We are sincere in our approach. We are problem solvers. We really believe that our island has the talent and the intellect and the capacity to accomplish so much more. And with your help, we'll be able to help give us 4 more years so that we can continue to make progress on your behalf. So I also humbly ask you to please vote. Go out there and vote. Please vote for us. Please vote for Judy Wampat for the U.S. Congress. please vote for a majority in the Guam legislature on the Democratic side, which means a vote for progress. Thank you.
And on that note, we'd like to say thank you to the viewers and our members of the Action PAC for tuning in to this very special episode of the We Want to Know Action PAC show. My name is Leddy. I'm your executive director and your host, and it's been a pleasure. Adios.